And let's join Global Affairs analyst Calvin Dack for more on this. Many thanks to you for joining us on this hour, Calvin Dack. When you look at 2 weeks of congressional hearings on this impeachment probe, we've had testimonies from people like Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, we've had Fiona Hill, Gordon Sondland, and many more. What stood out for you in this past 2 weeks?
Well, I think what stood out for me is most of the people, if not all, who testified aren't political people. These are career Foreign Service officers who try their best to not embellish or have a political motive about what they say. And what they all said was remarkably consistent. And I think that Fiona Hill kind of put a bow around it when she said everybody knew, as so did Mr. Holmes. So I think that is what was most striking to me, is that when we got to digging, we found out that it was not only clear, but that there weren't any discrepancies from what we heard when we first saw the whistleblower complaint.
When you look at everyone who testified last week, Trump called them never Trumpers. He named them never Trumpers. But when you look at those who testified this week, especially for someone like Gordon Sondland, who actually contributed to Trump campaign in 2016, when you look at his testimony, do you think that he at least was, he was called the star witness. Do you think that he lived up to that reputation of being the star witness?
I think he mostly did. And first, on the point about a never Trumper, just for your audiences so that you know, that seems to be the code for Donald Trump whenever a Republican disagrees with him. And I would hardly call Ambassador Sondland a never Trumper because he paid $1 million for Donald Trump's inauguration celebration. So if those are the people that are never Trump, I'd hate to see the people that are pro-Trump. But now, when it comes to Ambassador Sondland's testimony, I think he did a really effective job, except for trying to be a little too coy about what the quid pro quo was about. He kind of changed to say that it was about a White House meeting and possibly another call, not really sure if they referred to the aide. So I think he was being a little too unclear when he clearly knew what was going on because he said it in his written testimony.
So House Committee Chairman Adam Schiff, the Intelligence House Committee, Adam Schiff has said that, look, this is bigger than Richard Nixon's Watergate scandal in the 1970s. Do you agree, or do you think that that's just a bit overboard?
Oh, I think it's much bigger, because here's what hit me to know how serious this was. If there hadn't been a whistleblower, apparently Ukrainian President Zelensky was going to go on CNN Fareed Zakaria to announce an investigation that would involve Donald Trump's main 2020 political rival. Imagine if that had happened and we didn't know why he was making that announcement. That could have really overturned the 2020 election, because it would have stopped the Biden campaign before the primaries are even over. So I think it's more serious in that he tried to influence a campaign, Donald Trump, and he did so calling on a foreign power to do so.
All right, 40% of Americans are now interested in this impeachment probe, up from 30% in February. And then Trump's approval ratings in the Republican Party has fallen from 91% in June to about 79% in November. Do you think that this has a capacity to halt his political career and re-election in 2020?
I think it's unlikely that it will halt his career, but what I think is really unfortunate for the Republicans, and I think this is going to follow them for generations, way past Donald Trump, whatever his future political life may be, is that if Republicans were acknowledging that it was inappropriate for Donald Trump to make this request about a political rival, but that it didn't rise to the level of being impeached and removed, not everybody would agree with that, but at least that would be an acknowledgement of the facts. We had this morning Republican congresspeople who were claiming that it had nothing to do with Joe Biden, that Donald Trump was just so incredibly passionate about ending corruption in Ukraine. He decided the worst source of it was the former president of the United States, who's his #1 political rival in this time.
All right, just to ask you this finally, Trump has said, look, he doesn't mind testifying by writing to Congress, suggested by Nancy Pelosi. What would be the implication of his testimony to Congress?
Well, that remains to be seen, because keep in mind, this is only the fourth time in our history that we've even started to pursue impeachment for an American president. And his offer to testify, I don't really take that seriously, because he also said he would testify at least by written questions. He testified to Mueller, and then he ended up submitting written questions. So I wouldn't put too much faith in that he's really going to testify. But it is very important to keep in mind that this trial that will take place in the Senate, if the House does impeach him, that it's not a legal trial. It's a political trial that could turn into a circus 11 months before the next election.
Global Affairs analyst Kelvin Dack, many thanks for your time on this issue.